Hey, what's up? This is Wilsford back with Abysmal Hems, and I got Reza Mills with me, and we're about to count down our top five thrash albums. Like we talked about last time, that was the next logical place to go from crossover. And so I kind of see this as now we're getting into like legit traditional metal territory because I kind of see thrash has been the evolution from like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden with an injection of like punk into it. And but less like the lines are not as blurred as they are with crossover. And I think that most of the thrash bands I know, at least a few on my list, are kind of just, we don't even think of it as thrash. We take it for granted and just kind of consider them the what metal is. And I think that it hit at the right time, and all other forms of like extreme metal, death metal, black metal, whatever, kind of came from these bands. Um, that's my 2 cents. How does that sound to you?
That sounds, I was pretty much going to say the same. It was just like hardcore is an extension of traditional punk rock. So can the same be said about thrash? It's kind of interesting actually, because obviously for me as someone, and I do apologize to anyone listening, it's not meant to offend. As someone who doesn't like stuff like Iron Maiden and the new wave of British heavy metal as it came to be known, with the exception of Motorhead, you've got to have Motorhead, right? Um, uh, for me, it was just something that made metal seem a little bit more. I don't want to use the word credible because that sounds bad, but a little bit more appealing, let's say, for yours truly, because it had that punk attitude interladen. And as I say, it picked up on yeah, okay, there's Iron Maiden, etc., but also like as I say, Motorhead, maybe a bit of Venom in there, and so it just sort of took it forward, and I think thrash to me really represent the starting point of what was to come with more extreme forms of metal, death metal, black metal, whatever you want to call it, groove metal eventually. So yeah, it just makes sense really. And I've listened to this stuff for years. I mean, I don't listen to it regularly these days, but I've still got a huge soft spot for it. So it's just as well considering the show.
And I think this is kind of where you're going to see like how our backgrounds bring a diverse perspective to this topic because like you seem to have come from more of a punk background
Yeah.
where I grew up listening to Iron Maiden, playing Dungeons and Dragons. So the first time I saw Metallica just wearing like jeans, I was
Yeah.
like, where are the skulls? Where are, because if I if I think about like the first five artists I really loved as a kid, like, Ozzy, Alice Cooper,
Hmm.
King Diamond,
Yeah.
they were all wearing makeup. And,
Sure.
and
Yeah, even
Metallica,
Dulcie, yeah.
looked like they crawled out from under working on a car. And so that took a little bit of time, but
Understand. Yeah.
here we
Well,
are.
yeah. Well, absolutely. I think maybe also whilst a lot of those thrash bands obviously tipped their hat to what came before, I think maybe it was also a reaction against a lot of those bands too, in a way. Because they probably just thought, well, we don't want to sound like, I don't know, Saxon or something,
Right, right.
do something that has just is, with all due respect to Saxon, maybe slightly less cheesy. Something that had a bit more sort of punch in the face rather than just, songs about motorbikes and Dungeons and Dragons, as you said before, and that kind of stuff. But, whatever. There's room for everything.
Right,
But
right, right.
I
I
too
mean,
say,
yeah, there's time and a place.
of
And
course.
because when you think of like a lot of those metal bands, they kind of were influenced. The Dungeons and Dragons stuff comes from
Yeah,
Led
of
Zeppelin and Uriah Heep
course.
and,
Rainbow and all of that. Yeah.
that type of thing. So,
Sure.
all
Okay.
right, here we go. What's your number one pick?
So I thought I would start things off with something relatively contemporary. So it's this band, the Troops of Doom, who I've reviewed a few times for the Sleeping Shaman. And I don't know if these are on your radar, but basically it's a guy called Jairo Guedes or Jario T, as he was known. He was in the first line of Sepultura. on the Morbid Visions LP and Bestial Devastation EP. And it was basically just an extension of, if you love those first two Sepultura releases, it's just that perfectly, that kind of proto death metal, but not quite. If
Mhm.
you're into things like Possessed, so it's thrash, but sort of that crossover tipping point into the more extreme form, but not quite as, like we're not talking Cannibal Corpse here. It's just, it was just the start of that. And it has a really breakneck style. It really sounds evil. I love Morbid Visions. I mean, the artwork is absolutely horrible, but that music is amazing, and the Troops of Doom for me really capture that. And the record I'm going to choose is their very first EP, The Rise of Heresy, which I definitely recommend. I think they're doing a tour actually. I was going to go, but I can't actually make it now. But yeah, just a really breakneck style and so much fun to listen to. Yeah, so I definitely recommend them.
Yeah, I'm aware of who they are, but I have
Sure,
not, Sepultura fractioned
of
off
course.
into so many pieces.
Mm.
We have Cavalera, we have Soulfly, we have Troops of Doom, we have the band that calls themselves Sepultura.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, I would be willing to check it out. For me,
I
it's,
think it would get a big
Sepultura
hit.
is like if you don't have Max Cavalera, then you don't have Sepultura. But
I mean, he was an original member in essence, Jairo T. I mean, I know what you're saying. The Cavalera brothers are pretty much Sepultura, but
uh,
if you miss what Sepultura did on those very first two releases, then you're going to absolutely love this. As I say, if you were into Possessed as well, man, you are going to love what these guys do. So, yeah, definitely dig into the catalog. I think knowing your sort of your love of sort of things that go into the extreme, that you'll love these guys.
yeah, for sure. I'll check them out. So and these aren't in order. Although this could be the number one if they were. Although I don't know. There's one other album that probably would beat it. And a lot of people will probably be surprised that I didn't pick another album by these guys that most people would expect to be the choice. But no, it's 1984, Ride the Lightning by Metallica. Just because I think the songwriting is better. I think that Master of Puppets, we're getting into, 9-minute songs and like even a song that's as good as Disposable Heroes. How many times do we have to go back to the front, you know? Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I would go with Ride the Lightning on that one. And it's more melodic. They smoothed out everything they need to smooth out on Kill 'Em All. And I don't know. I mean, it almost reminds me a little bit of Diary of a Madman at times because it's darker
Mm.
than Kill 'Em All.
I when it comes to Metallica, I mean, I know our lovely editor Keith. He obviously absolutely adores them, and there's regularly news about Metallica on there. I've got to be honest, I lost all interest in Metallica since I'm afraid to say the Black Album, and I don't care that they cut their hair. That's what a stupid fucking reason to dislike a band. I mean, grow up, cut their hair. But I've got to be honest with you, the early stuff to me, when I listen to Ride the Lightning, it gives me goosebumps. When I first heard Fight Fire with Fire, I was like, Jesus Christ, what on earth is this? It was amazing. And just the amount of different melodies, Fade to Black, Call of Cthulhu, yeah, Escape, okay, it's not the best song in the world, possibly, but I mean, the title track, it's an exceptional. It's probably my favorite by them. So yeah,
Right, for sure.
superb record.
Trapped Under Ice.
Yeah,
That's
it's
another
very
good one.
underrated. Yeah, really, really,
The
just
title
such a
track,
great record. Yeah, and it's actually, you know what? It sounds really stupid to say this. It's actually a scary sounding album.
right, yeah.
It's
I
so
mean, I can
bleak.
see that with like, For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Yeah.
Creeping Death is like so aggressive.
Oh yeah. It's
Um,
just, I mean, man, they were literally, if you excuse the pun, they were on fire. I mean, they
right.
really were. Wow. Yeah. Superb. Good choice.
All right, what you got for number two?
Okay, man. So I have got some might think these are a bit of a goofy band, but I've got the self-titled album by Carnivore. I think I've mentioned these guys on a previous show. They did two records. It is the mighty late great Pete Steele, who would later go on to be in Typo Negative. Retaliation is more of a crossover record. That's why I didn't include that one here. The self-titled is more sort of a little bit more thrashier. Offensive lyrics as always from Pete, but always tongue in cheek, you know. I mean, some of the lyrics, you just read them, you just laugh out loud.
Race War, that would get canceled right
Oh
now.
my God, could you imagine? But songs like Predator and Male Supremacy, I mean, he'd be cancelled in seconds if he
Yeah, yeah.
now. But with Pete, you see, it was never sort of, I always found him such a hilarious guy, you know, and that the fact that a lot of people took him so seriously. I mean, come on. I mean, if you read Male Supremacy, it's absolutely hilarious. And the stage show as well, throwing raw meat into the audience, dressed like Conan the Barbarian. The whole thing on paper should be ridiculous, and it would be if it was not for the fact that I think the music is really, really solid.
Right,
And
right, yeah.
to me,
And
Louis,
it's a
yeah,
precursor to Slow, Deep, and Hard too. I mean, there's not a huge difference, even when Peter sings on in a few places here and there. He's singing in that type of negative voice.
he is. Yeah, I miss him enormously. We need him now more than ever. He was just such a character and a huge loss for sure.
Awesome. Well, I can go with that one. So I got three albums that are all from 1988, which was, I guess, an important year for me for thrash.
Sure.
Um, the other one that could have been, that probably is number one, and I think, we talk about, and there's the other two 1988 albums that I have on here kind of go in a different direction. And I think wisely so, because when this album came out, it was evident that just the fast speed metal part of thrash, we had to evolve beyond that. And this band did it with this album. It's 1988 Slayer, South of Heaven.
Oh, nice.
Um, Darker, I think it's darker than Rain and Blood. I know a lot of people would pick Rain and Blood, but some of those songs are so fast they feel rushed to me, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas this is very deliberate. The title track that opens the album, you couldn't ask for anything darker. Um, yeah, I mean, and it's still, he was still able to do his Judas Priest yodeling. There's a Judas Priest cover on the song on the album. So yeah, and I mean, I like South of Heaven, but you could see them starting to steer into a more hardcore direction with South of Heaven, with Season in the Abyss, rather.
Sure.
So yeah, I'll go with South of Heaven.
Well, it's interesting you should mention Judas Priest there because they covered Dissident Aggressor on this
Hmm.
one now, I think, and do a great cover. It gets overlooked really because obviously, you know, Rain in Blood is quite legendary and deservedly so, but the South of Heaven is certainly more nuanced, and you have to, you know, it takes a few more listens, but I think it's, if anything, it's far darker and sinister than anything on Rain in Blood, which, although I like, at times kind of is so fast, it almost sounds a bit cartoonish. Not in a bad way, but you know what I mean, because it's so
Yeah,
over
yeah,
the
yeah,
top.
totally. It like sounds like I know it's only 28 minutes long. It just
Yeah.
sounds like all the songs are like crammed. I mean, I remember I had the cassette, and the
Mm,
whole album's on each side of the cassette.
yeah.
Um, and I wore it out, but there's not a lot of dynamics on it. You just get in there and they're hit you with Angel of Death, and then that's it. Then you don't really get a lot of nuance until you get into the title track at the end. It's a boom, boom, boom.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, no. Yeah, cool. Yeah, underrated for sure.
All right, what you got next?
Well, actually, I think this might be the first time. I've gone for Slayer as well, but this time I've gone for Hell Awaits. And you know what? I've always loved this record. I remember as a kid seeing the album cover and being terrified by it, by the hellish, you know, images that are on there, and hoping that I never end up there. Thank
I have to send you this um, meme. It's the cover of Hello Waits, but all the demons are holding dumbbells, and it says Hello Waits.
Brilliant. Yeah, so a terrifying album cover. And what I love about it is I don't think there's anything quite like it in Slayer's catalogue, in my opinion. I mean, of course, you just mentioned South of Heaven. They saw a bit more of a nuanced approach, but Hell Awaits was certainly the most progressive they've ever been. I mean, there's songs that are like 7 minutes long on there. And it's certainly the most interesting record. I mean, of course, everyone knows the title track with the backwards singing thing at the beginning. And it was a leap ahead from Show No Mercy, which, although decent, was it was okay. It was a bit kind of weedy production. It wasn't the best thing they've ever produced. So it was a huge leap forward. And, I mean, couldn't you just fall asleep to the sounds of necrophiliac and, at dawn they sleep? Isn't that just so restful? It's brilliant. I just think it's such an interesting record for them. They're most diverse yet.
I think it's, I was talking about how all music kind of spawned off, all heavy music at least spawned off of these bands. And I think the death metal definitely spawned off of Hello Awaits. I think
Oh
that that
yeah.
was the album.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a logical extension for well, I'm not a huge death metal guy, but I love Morbid Angel.
Right, yeah. You can see
I can,
how Altars of Madness would have picked up from them.
oh yeah, absolutely, man. Cool. Yes, that's my choice.
Awesome. Okay, I'll stick with 1988. And I was talking about the way things changed. And, there was another album that I almost picked, and it probably is a 1988 album as well, too. But instead, I went with this guy. And it's a weird one, but I think the band saw what direction things were headed before it even got there,
Hmm.
and had already, been prepared. They were braced, and it worked for them for a few albums, I think. But it is Frolic Through the Park by Death Angel.
Hmm. Okay.
And it's speaking of covers, they got a Kiss cover on there, but they still blended a lot of punk sounds, and then you can hear like the early DNA of nu metal starting to form,
Hmm.
because they threw in some funky bass lines. They were singing in a way that wasn't like Judas Priest, so there was something different was happening. And I remember when I bought this album and the first Danzig solo album on the same day. And I remember thinking that something different was happening in music when I listened to those two albums. And so, yeah, so that's the reason I think that this would be in my top five.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I've got to be brutally honest. I don't know much about Death Angel. I haven't really, I mean, I know who they are, but I've never really made an effort to listen to them much. I just haven't got around to it. The only thing I know about them is that they had this really horrendous bus crash, and that's
Right,
about
right, right.
that's all I know. And I've seen them. What's the main guy called? Mark Oswego, is it? Interviewed, and he just seems like the sweetest, loveliest guy you can imagine. It's on one of those Amoeba Records, what's in my bag things.
Right,
And
right,
he just
right.
seems like such a solid dude. So yeah, I'll have to dig into them. I think I've heard bits and
Yeah,
pieces.
that's I think you would appreciate that album. I mean, so the
Sure.
album that all the guys in the battle vests would tell you to put on your list would be the Ultraviolence.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it just kind of sounds like everything else. I mean, you might as well say rigor mortis, at that point in time.
Oh God, that's a name I haven't thought about for years.
So yeah, so I think that this sets them apart as a more distinct entity.
Cool.
And they eventually evolved into something weird for a couple albums, and then, yeah. So there we go. All
I'll
right,
have
what
to
you got?
give it a listen. Cool. Okay, man. So up next, one of my favorites, actually, a band called Nuclear Assault, and their debut album, Game Over. I think I first got into these, well, mostly kind of because of Stormtroopers of Death. So I heard obviously that album. Then, of course, being into the crossover and the New York hardcore thing. These guys, obviously, I'm pretty sure they toured with AF and a load of those bands.
Mhm.
And Danny Lilker, I think, has always had a connection to the hardcore scene. And I think, what's the vocalist called? John Connolly. I think he was at a lot of CBGB's gigs as well. So there was a lot in common with that. And it's just such a well put together record. It has some hardcore touches in there, here and there. Obviously, some will go towards Handle with Care, which is a great record too. But for me, this is the one which I first got exposed to. And, it was the usual themes, nuclear war, diseases, blah, 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 blah. But just a really breakneck style. I would kind of say, I'm not sure if I would bring Anthrax as a comparison, maybe less goofy than that, but it's definitely in that sort of ballpark. Um,
I would say DRI is a
DRI,
fair
yeah, you could
comparison.
say. Yeah, yeah, and I'm
They're
sure
a
they
more
probably
metal version of
do.
DRI almost.
In essence, yeah, absolutely. And Lilk is such an amazing bass player as well, and such a legendary dude. So yeah, great band. Definitely check this album out if you get the chance.
I saw them open up for Testament. It was on the Practice What You Preach tour for Testament. I
Yeah.
forget what tour it was for Nuclear Assault. They were the opening band. I think Sabotage was
Oh, God, Christ.
yeah, kind of sandwiched in
Wow.
between those two, getting blown away. But
Yeah.
yeah, they were great. They were great. I was stage diving the whole time because I was, like 12. So that's how
Oh
it
yeah.
goes.
God, that must have been absolutely amazing. I think Survive would have been the album they had out at that time.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. No, I definitely recommend if you want and also lyrics that didn't feel cheesy again. It had real themes, real subjects, not just, killing people and Satan or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but a bit more seriousness.
Right.
So
Yeah, I can see that too.
apart
There
from, I
definitely would
must
be a little more serious than,
yeah.
Flotsam and Jetsam.
Apart from, there's a song called Mr. Softy's theme, which is just like an ice cream truck, basically. They weren't afraid of injecting some humor in there, but yeah, for the most part, a little bit more serious. So there you go.
All right. Well, when we're getting into humor, I'll go ahead well, no, I'll stick with my 1988s. So my other 1988 is a totally weird album. We've talked about this band before, and I think it's their best album, really. And it's one of the best metal albums ever. It's Dimension Hatros by Voivod.
Very good. Very.
And yeah, I mean, it's sure killing technology is great, but the songs here, is where it all really came together. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, Tribal Convictions plays in my head all the time. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Voivod so weird, um, but brilliantly so. It's like the way I describe. If someone's asking me, well, what the hell is Voivod? What do they sound like? I'm like, if you take Van de Graaff Generator, if you take sort of like Die Kreuzen, and if you throw in a little bit of, I don't know, Venom or Metallica or something, then you're kind of there.
Right, right. Yeah, totally. I mean, it depends on what album you hear by them too. You
Sure.
know, like if you were to hear Angel Rat, well, then you would be like, well, they're kind of like a weird alternative band. Nothing Face, you would be like, well, they're the band that inspired Tool. Um, this
That's
album, totally dark and dystopian, heavier, I think, than the faster Killing Technology album, but I don't know. I think everything just kind of fell into piece with this album.
Well, yeah, agreed. Yeah, very, very cool. Great band. What can you say?
Yeah, for sure. All right, what you got next?
Okay, man. I think somehow our brains are synced in tonight because I've also chosen Voivod. So I don't know what's going on. Must be something in the water in both our countries. I've actually gone for the Outer Limits, and if Dimension Hatros was the beginning of them starting to morph into far more progressive experimental territory, then this record must be the epitome of it. I think it was the last album at that point with what's he called? Is it Snake on vocals?
Yep,
Um,
yep.
yeah, before they got that other guy in to mixed results. Yeah, I mean, this is really, really progressive. I mean, absurdly. So there's a 17-minute song on here called Jack Luminous, which I recommend. It's quite the experience. And they also cover the Nile song by Pink Floyd.
Hmm.
Really good cover. I mean, the original's great anyway, but they really do a fantastic version of it. And of course, everyone knows Piggy, the late Dennis DeMore was in there as well. And yeah, that's all I have to say really. It really took what Angel Rat was doing, Angel Rat, yeah, and went even further. So if you're not into their more experimental stuff and you just want to listen to like Raw and what was the other record? Was it War and
War
Pain?
and Pain, yeah.
If you're just into those records, I'd probably steer clear of this record. I don't think you're going to get much out of it. I have to be in the right mood to listen to it. It's not an easy album by any means, but it's a great one nonetheless. So yeah, I don't know. Slayer and Voivod, I think we both
Yeah,
both
I mean, they're two of the best thrash bands for different reasons. I mean, they're both dark,
yeah.
but in different ways.
Oh, absolutely. And what I love about Voivod also, I mean, I would love to have seen that tour. I think it was Faith No More, Soundgarden, and Voivod.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Oh man, what
But
was
that
that?
didn't get Faith No More. It was the big F, Soundgarden and Voivod. But
Wow.
Soundgarden blew me away. I'd never really heard them before. And
Yeah.
so you can imagine like your first experience Soundgarden is seeing them on the Louder Than Love tour.
Mm.
And I was like, well, these guys are like Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath all in one.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a great show.
I bet, man. Absolutely. Wow. That must have been something.
Wish I got Faith No More, but that was not what happened.
Bummer.
Instead, I saw Faith No More open up for Billy Idol,
Love
and I
that so
left
much.
before Billy Idol.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
No
I mean,
disrespect.
now I would go see him. I like Billy Idol right now, but at the
He's
time it was like, no, I wanted to surprise your dad, and that was it.
yeah, I mean, Billy Idol.
And it was a bad time for Billy Idol too. I mean, he was rocking the Cradle of Love or something weird at that point. So
Did he do, was that the time when he was doing that really silly album that, I don't know, what was that 1993 record based around,
no, it was before that. It was like
oh, it was before
91.
that.
So it was like
Okay.
Cradle of Love era,
Right, okay.
which is basically like a step in the direction of Robert Palmer.
Oh, really? Oh, Christ.
Yeah.
Okay. It's definitely
This is
so.
adult contemporary period.
Yikes.
All right, so my next one is we're done with 1988. So now I will move on to 1986
Hmm.
and Among the Living by Anthrax.
Yeah.
Um, it's I like spreading the disease too, but then we're still getting some of the Iron Maiden yodeling going on there. So this album was like a line in the sand, and it was, clear that these guys were doing something different. Even though they'd been playing technically thrash before this. And it was before they got silly and started putting on beat shorts and rapping. So I don't know. I mean, it's just like the songs were hooky, but in like a punk way almost. So I mean, they were singing about comic books, underground comic books most of the time, or Stephen King novels. So yeah, I was all about it. And it's, I can still put it on. That's the thing with like all mine, if I put them on today, they don't sound dated to me.
Mm,
Um, I mean, there's a little bit, I could probably with this one, I could probably pick out some production things that I might want to tweak.
mm,
Um, Less so maybe with Death Angel. And I kind of see Death Angel was following on Anthrax's heels to some extent.
mm, mm.
But yeah, I mean, Caught in a Mosh, you got I Am the Law. So
Was it?
Indians would be the cheesiest song on here, but still pretty good. I always thought it ripped off Passage to Bangkok by Rush, but
Oh,
you know, that's okay.
yeah. I mean, Anthrax. It's like they were a very strange band. He got Joey Belladonna with his operatic vocals, who seemed so out of place with that band, who were primarily like a somewhat hardcore tinged experimental thrash band, but it kind of worked
Right,
actually.
right.
I'm guessing probably it wasn't Joey's idea to team up with Public Enemy and do things like I'm the Man. I can't imagine him sort of
No, I
necessarily
think he would have
volunteering.
wanted to have teamed up with Joe Perry or Steve Perry.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it would have been necessarily his scene, but power to him for just going along with it,
Oh
even
yeah,
though it's his
he played
thing.
along. He put on the Indian headdress and danced around. Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, exactly. No, I like Anthrax. As I say, I do remember playing that album a lot and spreading the disease and what's the record with got the time on it? That one,
Persistence of Time.
that's the one. And then, John Bush, okay, it was fine, I guess. But yeah, I like Anthrax. Again, they're just a fun band,
Right, right, right. Yeah,
I
and
mean,
I think that the thing with Anthrax is they're the least serious of
yeah.
the big four thrash bands or whatever.
Oh, sure.
Um, but I mean, they were catchy songwriters. There's a reason that they sold more albums than Testament. They didn't care about the guitar solos.
No.
It was
No.
about the songs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing with Testament. Obviously, you had Alex Skolnick and those people, brilliant players, of course. But with Anthrax, it was just a feel. You could easily imagine them touring with the Beastie Boys. I can't imagine like Testament doing that.
No.
You
Mm-mm.
know, I mean, they were pretty more pedal to the metal. Maybe Exodus could have done that. They were another kind of, I would sort of see them as the West Coast version of Anthrax in a way, called it the party atmosphere, the kind of, you know what I mean? That sort of great.
Right. Yeah, I can totally see that. I mean, with Exodus, and Exodus would have been in the runner-up category for me, them and Flotsam and Jetsams, No Place for Disgrace. Um, but I would have picked Bonded by Blood by Exodus.
Hmm?
But yeah, they just aren't as dynamic, as
Yeah.
Anthrax. And some of that, I mean, then there's where Joey Belladonna works because he can do more stuff than Paul Baloff, who was a one-trick pony.
Well, I mean, Bailoff was just there for his personality, really. I mean, he wasn't the world's best vocalist, but his spirit and his exuberance, I suppose, is the thing that really made that band.
Right, yeah, for sure, for sure. And that you can I guess his vocal approach, I kind of see how it would have like evolved from like AC/DC, or
Yeah.
like punk.
Or
Um,
Motorhead or something.
right, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Where, for all his cheesiness, Joey Belladonna can sing melodies that get stuck in your head, you know.
He's a great singer. I mean, he's not usually my type of singer, but
Yeah, no, no, no. Yeah, I totally get that.
Anthrax, I think he just works. It just works perfectly, in fact.
And that's the thing, like with him until it didn't. I think then you saw on Persistence of Time that they went as far as they could go with Joey Belladonna and at that point in time where music was at.
Mm.
Um, I don't see them making a grunge album with him.
No, it wouldn't have worked. No, no way. No.
Cool. So, what are your kind of final thoughts on Thrash?
Yeah, again, if I am going to turn onto thrash, onto metal, sorry, it tends to be thrash, and I've always got time to listen to Slayer. I've always got time to listen to Voivod. And again, I really hope that anyone watching slash listening to this isn't going to take this in the wrong way. This is just my opinion. I don't feel embarrassed when I'm listening to this stuff, I just think there's the punkiness of it, the weirdness of it. It just makes it so much more appealing. Again, ooh, I can't say the same for someone like Manowar, Sirith Ungol, or someone like that. Great bands are what they do, of course, but I think they kind of do metal a disservice. Whereas the thrash stuff, it's like, it's something that the punks could get into. It's something that's a little bit, I hate using this word, but a bit cooler, maybe.
Right. Yeah, I could see that.
Not quite so Spinal Tap-ish. So yeah, again, and as I said before at the start, really the starting point for extreme music that was to come later on.
For sure. Yeah. I can see that. And I think that, to get a bigger audience, they had to kind of get out of the Dungeons and Dragons type of motif.
Yeah,
Because
I mean,
even Iron Maiden eventually did that, like Power Slave,
sure.
there was less of that. And we were getting more into like history lessons,
Hmm.
which is for not for everybody still.
Well, they're a good band at what they do, of course, talented guys. But yeah, just to me, as I say, if anyone out there has this perception of metal that it's just this completely overblown thing, honestly, just listen to, Rain in Blood or listen to Voivod or something. It certainly ain't. It's far more than what you think it is.
For sure. And yeah, this is definitely the most accessible entry point into metal, I would say would
I
be
would
thrash.
say,
Because
yeah,
so many people jumped on with not even the Black Album, even with And Justice for All.
yeah. I agree. Yeah, yeah, and of course, it's not the. I know you don't mind it too much in spots, but in my opinion, it's not the musical abortion that is glam metal. Which I don't know about that stuff.
Right, right,
I don't know about.
right.
We won't be doing a glam metal top five. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Mine will consist of absolutely nothing. So
Right.
I'm afraid.
That would be my reggae top five, would be absolutely. There would not be a single album on that.
Cool.
Well, cool. All right, man.